Everybody, it's Kevin and Jaron, and we're joined here with Jena Quinn, one of my favorite people, one of Jaron's favorite people, and I think one of pharmacy's favorite people
Back
in
at
general. And you're on the New Frontier podcast featured by ASCP. We'll get into, I think, a number of pieces of conversation. But first, Jena, I want to ask you about your Olaf pants. And
Sure. Shoot. I didn't know we were going there, but that's totally fine. So my mom knows that I don't like regular pants. I feel like I'm sensory. So like I get the kids that have sensory issues, and I had them my whole life, but nobody put a label on it until later. But I really love fleece pants or fleece just anything. So my mom bought me like 4 years ago when we went to Disney fleece Olaf pants. And that and a nice shirt is usually my traditional working gear that my kids see me every day at the computer just chatting away in my Olaf pants. I don't know if they know what I do, but they do know that that's my work attire.
Oh, that's so fantastic. I think that the peeling back the layers and just getting real with how business actually works, like you've got an incredible businesswoman in Jena that's being so real on a podcast and saying, here's what I wear to be able to be comfortable and functional and successful is just a big deal for all of us. Because we'll get pretty real on this podcast with all the struggles that Jena's gone through with building a business, going from, hey, here's an idea, here's the iterations and moving forward with it. Jena, do you want to do us a big favor? And I always think that everybody knows you, but can you introduce yourself a little bit about Perfecting Peds?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Jena Quinn, CEO and co-founder of Perfecting Peds. I've been a pediatric pharmacist for 14 years now, even though I still feel so young. My 8-year-old would tell you that's different, that I don't I don't look as young as I feel. And then I always think this is a pivotal part of who I am, or one of the most important things is a mom of 3 little girls. So I wouldn't have kind of had the audacity and kind of push if I wasn't a mom, because I definitely view practicing through a completely different lens than I did prior to kids. And so they're an integral part of my entrepreneurial journey. But Perfecting Peds, very, very simply, is we are at the face of it, a group of pediatric pharmacists. So I was just telling Jaron and Kevin before we actually pressed play that we do have a lot of technicians and care managers and non-clinical roles in our organization that keep us humming, arguably even more so than the pediatric pharmacists. But basically what we do is we partner with health plans. We do kind of a risk assessment, if you will, and we pull out from that health plan who are your sickest kids. And we go out and we partner with those patients and their caregivers, of course, and we work with them longitudinally. So we see these kiddos anywhere from age 0 to 24. And we see them on average of every other month. So this is high touch. So, we get to know all the wacky things about them, just like they probably know I wear Olaf pants or that I have 3 kids and I know everything about their family. I know everything about like how their child's eating, stooling, sleeping, because everything could be a possible side effect from a clinical pharmacist lens. So anyway, we meet with them virtually, and in between then they can email us, they can text us, they can call us, with the whole goal of hoping. And we have now going on 2 studies that show, if we stay with them longitudinally and address their questions and optimize medication, we can decrease their hospital rates by almost half, 44%. We can cut total cost of care. Our new study shows $14K in total cost of care. And we can actually take away 15% of meds that are either problematic or just no longer efficacious and needed. So again, we kind of, how I pitch it to our parents is, we're your pediatric clinical pharmacists in your pocket, right? So if you need us, we're here to help. We want to know if there's a new med added. We want to know if there's a transition to care. We want to know if your child's hospitalized. And although I don't talk about it much, we actually do have technology that tells us all those things and really is an integral part to our business. But I said I was going to succinctly tell you what it was, and that wasn't succinct, so I apologize.
Not at all. It's perfect.
So, quick question. I've always been envious of how good you are at just gathering data and using that to support your approach and what you're doing. Is that because you have a residency mindset? Like, did a residency teach you? Because like that's a component of my business that I am totally lacking in.
Honestly, I mean, thinking about pharmacy school, I don't even remember if I took pharmacoeconomics. That's like how terrible,
Right.
like, and much I seriously hate it in my core. But I knew, I felt like it was intuitive to me. So as part of not even residency, but my prior job before jumped and started this business was I started their pediatric patient care role at Cooper University Hospital in Camden. And I had to prove, like, one, my worth, right? And then two, that I needed help because I did the role and I was an N of one taking care of, I think with all the units combined, it was close to like 150 kids every day. And so obviously running P&T, then I wanted to expand things and we eventually made our presence at codes mandatory. And then we did, various protocols that allowed us to practice at the top of our license. So I had to prove that, that one wasn't enough. And to do that, I needed to put numbers behind it and intervention reports, right, to show the C-suite here. And so eventually that role grew into about 6 people, which is kind of wild. So, but as part of that, like I had that mindset going into entrepreneurism is like, I think where pharmacists lack the most is not education, right? We all go to school for 6 to 8 years. Some of us do residency. Even if we don't do residency, a lot of us get board certified. And even if that, we all have our doctorate. And we really are such dorky people. At our core, so we don't lack education. We don't lack the ability to take care of a patient. Where we really lack is we haven't proven our value, specifically in my eyes, in this consultant role. And even more when you think about a pediatric pharmacist has never been in a consultant role. So like where you guys have practiced in the geriatric space, I was basically had the hypothesis that if we took a pediatric pharmacist, placed them in a consultant role longitudinally in the AmCare space, magical things would happen. But I knew that to be able to scale, I needed to put numbers behind that. And so I had to reteach myself pharmacoeconomics. And true story, I reached out to the one other person in the United States who ever published anything that involved pediatrics, pharmacists, in an AmCare space. There's only one other literature article published. I think it was now at this time, it was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. I said a Hail Mary, and I emailed that little email that's linked on some of the articles. And I said, there's no way you're going to answer. Any way you could teach me how you did this. She responded and she sat with me for 6 hours and basically retaught me pharmacoeconomics. God bless her soul. Eileen Young, shout out to her. And she wouldn't even let me pay her. She's like, I love what you're doing. Like, it was really amazing. And from that, in that session, I was able to then, relearn what are indirect, what are direct costs, what's the total cost of care, what is it for in the databases for kids, what's an ER visit cost, what's an AmCare visit, cost avoidance, all those things. And so we're now on our second publication, and this one isn't in a skilled nursing facility, which I'll talk about. This one's at a pop health level. So we studied our first 80 patients from health partners, and they have been a tried and true partner with us, the insurance plan, for 2 years now. And we were able to get those numbers that I articulated in the beginning of the podcast. But with them, that has armed my sales team to go out and really use that as a sales tactic so that we could scale into other health plans.
Incredible. Yeah, that it just goes to show, like, you never know unless you try, unless you reach out.
Yeah, I had no idea. Yeah, I'm not an expert. She really did show me, here's the actual wholesale price. Here's what, here's per intervention, what the dollar sign is going to be targeted with, here's the I forget what the actual acronym is, but basically the golden standard for where people report in the costs associated with the hospital or AmCare visits specific to pediatrics. So, yeah, people are more willing to help than you think.
Yeah, totally agree.
One thing along those lines that I don't want to forget to ask you, Jena, is this. You mentioned in the beginning of the podcast and with Jaren's question of really presenting that data and it being meaningful, like you have to know your audience pretty significantly.
Yeah.
And for the most part, most pharmacists that are probably listening to this don't necessarily interact with health plan executives on a day-to-day basis to know what do they need to know, how do you interact there, how do you make your value kind of be shown. Not that you have to go through like the medical cost ratio or going through the PMPM models that folks need to actually know about. But in general, if you had to educate, any pharmacist that's listening today of what is it like to work with these executives at the health plan level, how is the language different and what do they really care about and what matters? What would you say?
Even in like my own journey over the past 4 years as a CEO is like, they like brevity and clarity. So they like to keep it brief. And I don't like this about myself, but I've become a really brief, like you're lucky if the whole email is not in the title or in the subject. Like it's terrible, but it's like time's money. So you want to like be succinct. And then obviously our pitch deck has been an iteration time and time again from getting feedback from other C-suite executives. And, I think the passion, the non-tangibles like the passion, the positivity, et cetera, et cetera. But I think overall, like they care about the numbers, which is sad but true, right? Like we care about the clinical. They have a budget that they're having to abstain by. So like what we do is an actuarial exercise where we ingest all their de-identified claims, RX and medical. We do a pharmacoeconomics and actuarial exercise, and then we give them the ROI. And so, talking numbers and taking things that are very clinical and turning them into the things that matter to them, which is financial. Because what I learned early on my journey is like, I care if I make a kid feel better or they're on the right meds. But what that also does and how I can pitch it to the C-suite is they care about the financials. So if the financials are declining, that means they're in the ER less. That means they're on the right meds. That means that their PGX test is working. That means, they're not having side effects. So I really focus on the financial and the ROI piece. And I will say overall, even at massive, literally the leading health plans in the nation, they've been very excited at this change and addition of pharmacists to the clinical team, and even more so pharmacists into the care team working side by side with the patient and caregiver. So it's been extremely well received. So I think as long as we're talking their language, which is money, then you'll get their attention, and then it's like a win-win for everybody.
Here's the balance piece that I'm just curious on. We started the conversation and you mentioned, having kind of a broad care team, right? You have care managers, nurses, pediatric pharmacists. And then you also mentioned that they know everything about you, from you having the girls that you do to having your Olaf pants to you knowing when they're using the bathroom. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of detailing. Like there's a lot of intimacy and connection there that I know the three of us on this podcast, a lot of people listening, we care about deeply. But time is money, what you just said there.
Yeah.
Jen. So how do you balance then the asynchronous needs of a large health plan and the elements of you trying to connect with people like human beings and get that to work in a business model?
Yeah, so technology is like something I really, really fought for a long time. I did not want to be a tech-enabled service. And so I looked at literally hundreds of like MTM platforms, CMRs, et cetera, and they were all meant for the elderly population. And that's not my hearts and peds. And so I couldn't, the thought of purchasing one of the already kind of technology off the shelf didn't work for us. And I knew that was going to be my key and secret sauce into scaling. So basically we do have a lot of technology and we're pour more money, I think, in the technology more than anything. And what that allows us to do is take a lot of the administrative tasks off of our entire team's plate, and focus more on making that connection with the parent. And so our time really isn't cut. Like our first appointment between the pharmacy technician and pharmacist is an hour. Our follow-ups are 25 minutes. And we're seeing these people anywhere from, sometimes upward of 12 times a month to at least 4 times a year. And so the time patient facing isn't cut down. Where we do make a lot of cuts is in the technology world, because if you're not using AI, if you're not using all the freaking amazing technology that's like revolutionizing care every day to use that, save that time on the back end, it would be silly, right? But the administrative tasks, like dumb things like faxing or collecting our interventions or outreach, right? Reminders, all that kind of stuff can all be done by technology. So we're leveraging that in every possible way that you can.
So you got the 25-minute visit, but instead of having another 25 minutes afterwards of documentation, additional administrative tasks, you eliminated that down to a 5-minute kind of component. So the efficiencies go up pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that.
Absolutely.
Darren, go ahead. I see you.
Yeah.
Perched.
So, just to get where you are, it requires a lot of pivoting, So when you didn't start your company, you hadn't started it yet, you had to realize that maybe you weren't happy, you were unfulfilled, you saw a need, so you had to pivot to create it. Then you had to kind of act like Rocky Balboa. You didn't have any like support, any infrastructure. You were like chasing chickens in the field, and you're Philly born, so you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you kind of have to just start from scratch. You have to be scrappy. You have to be pivoting all the time. How have your goals evolved over time as you've grown? Like, your first goal is probably like, I just want a paycheck. Then it turned to, oh, now I need an employee. How do I get a payroll? How have your goals evolved? And like, what is your next ceiling? Because for people like you, what ceilings have you shattered, first of all? And what is your next ceiling that you're looking at right now?
Yeah. So when I started, it was like one kid who broke me on dual antipsychotics, unoptimized epilepsy meds, combative, self-injurious, not sleeping. And it was all because of the mismanagement of drugs. And then the other fun things is all the side effects he was having, like constipation, urinary retention, from the anticholinergics, which we only talk about in geriatrics, but it doesn't cause fall risk in the PEDS patients. It causes literally like gut immotility, and it can destroy their entire quality of life. So, what I did was just ask the family, like before I bought my LLC, can I just follow you outpatient and see how I could help? So we were able to consolidate to one antipsychotic, take off the freaking ipratropium that was interacting with all the other anticholinergic meds, get him to pee spontaneously, get him on the right bowel movement, and take him off of the anticholinergic so he was stooling, and then get him on the right psych meds using pharmacogenomics, and then he was no longer self-injurious, urinating, stooling, etc., and able to do fun things. Literally, the mom sent me a picture of her hugging him for the first time in 2 years that I still have saved on my phone. So that was really like my proof of concept. And so I thought, all right, this kid needs me, this child, and most of the medically complex children in New Jersey are in skilled nursing facilities. So I started there. So my goal was just get one patient. And I didn't even care about getting paid then. And so then they gave me 400 patients. And then I was like, oh, crap. I don't have any administrative experience. I'm going to need to hire some people. So then I kind of wrangled my pediatric pharmacy friends and got them to work with me. And then my next goal was, let's do a publication together. So it was like using all of our minds and what I just talked about, some amazing people to publish the data. And then I was like, I think there's something here, but I think going facility to facility is going to be silly. And so my whole goal has always been getting more patients and helping more families. That goal has never changed. Just how I went about it was different. So then my second contract, like big contract after getting a bunch of facilities in New Jersey, was with Health Partners as a provider. So then I just started doing provider contracts and billing MTM services. And that's only feasible in certain states. So I did that in Minnesota. And then after that, and I had the data to support it, I then was like, all right, health plans are the ones that have the most lives, and they're ultimately liable for the most economic impact on their lives. And so we pivoted to that. And so now that we have, I have paid myself, which is awesome. I've had to raise some money to do that, to be transparent. So we're done with the seed round, which is like in business terms, your first big round. We raised $3 million, but we're close to break even. We're generating millions in revenue. And like last year we had 3 employees. This year we have 33 already. But I think my goal has been, how we get there has constantly changed, but the goal has remained, like my North Stars remain the same, which is how do I get as many families and patients into Perfecting Peds hands to help them. So that has never changed. Like how I get there, I'm fine pivoting. That's life, and like my determination to get there. There's definitely no set roadmap, but I think if you have like the right North Star, you'll make it work where, however. And again, I never know how I'm going to get to my next place.
I'm glad you
That's the
clarified that.
surprise.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that, because you're right. The end objective never changes,
No.
but how you get there is constantly changing,
Yes.
and that's the part that's always evolving. You have to be kind of stubborn, but I think I forgot what book it was. Measure What Matters. There was like a Google exec who said, "You don't want to be delusional. You just want to be able to meet reasonable goals, but be stubborn about it. No, this can happen. This will happen, and it's possible. You just have to find the right way of reaching that goal." So very, very good point. Thank you for clarifying that. As far as your goals, have you? So what is your next ceiling then, based on that? What you've accomplished so far? Where do you want to accomplish next?
So my next like big thing is we've made like technology that caters to pediatric pharmacists, pediatric pharmacy techs, and pediatric care managers, and really has customized our workflow. And we have technology. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar. We love it. Med Action Plan, which is a adherence tool, but for kids, it shows you like where to draw up on the syringe. It tells you the most common side effects, et cetera, et cetera. But our next goal is to be really the hub and build out a huge patient-facing portal to be really supportive to the family. So, like, you can get your e-care plans there. You'll get all sorts of reminders. You'll log in from there. You'll get medication administration tips based off of, that child and meds, even like taste aversion tips and tricks. So all the things, and really have, yes, we're available, but I want it to be, and we've developed out the pharmacist part. But the next two steps are even more build out the provider part. So all the providers that we work with, because right now we're doing old school faxing and calling. And then the kind of in tandem build out a more patient centric and caregiver centric technology tool for them to be even more interconnected and have even more resources available.
Okay. So another quick add-on to that. As you've grown, what kind of obstacles have you run into? Because I think one of the things that I find funny about being a pharmacist is, from state to state, the laws vary a lot.
A lot.
And it's very frustrating. So what kind of barriers have you run into as you grow? Like, because different states have different laws and you have different ways of approaching, or it's hard to like to make everything uniform across the company, because your approach will vary from state to state.
Yeah, so I overcame that barrier by not being recognized as a provider. So the health plans recognize us as a vendor. And a lot of yes, of course, we make sure our pharmacists are up to date on their license and everything, but we don't have to do the whole actually registering, like they're licensed in the state, but you don't have to do credentialing and all the other things. And then you don't have to worry about, you know, all the, oh God, the billing, which is crippling. So that was one of the major hurdles was, hey, we're a provider, we can build CPT codes. Oh my God, we're only getting reimbursed for half of them. And if the patient doesn't answer, then we don't get paid. And we did all this work up front. So those were our two main obstacles. Now we bill as a vendor per member per month. And we can actually bill for things that we do asynchronously. So we're working behind the scenes, calling pharmacies all over to make sure that patient gets that med that day. We're communicating to providers all the time. We're contacting the patient, and sometimes it's not a telehealth visit directly. We're doing pre-workup, we're reviewing labs, we're doing all these things. And so how I overcame that these aren't billable events in the MTM world, which is freaking wild, was became a vendor, non-provider, and then billed per engaged member per month. And that way, as long as we were working on the patient, making a clinical impact, we didn't have to worry about the nuances of getting a biller and stuff. We just send them an invoice and we get paid. And as a business owner, I have reliable income and metrics that we set so that we can support the infrastructure that we're building with acceptable margins.
It makes a ton of sense, Jenna. And I think the capacities to be able to take on some clients that are much more labor intensive and those that aren't, and balancing those scales back and forth with the technology and the asynchronous billing and everything is super helpful. Speaking of balancing, so you're also a mom that is now mom to the next Katie Ledecky here sometime really soon.
Oh, yeah.
And so, right? And so you're losing your voice because of screaming and making sure you're cheering on your children. How do you do the balance, hon? Like, how do you go back and forth between I'm a mom that's doing all these incredible things and I'm a business owner and make those things work together?
It's like totally, it's a balance, right? Like sometimes I'm totally in mom mode and I'm doing great. And other times I'm like crap in the bed in mom mode and doing great as an executive. And so I have like set, as a priority, I give all my employees unlimited PTO, but I've definitely set a precedent that like family comes first. And as long as you're getting your work done, I'm not going to be on top of you or watching your every move. And I think what that's done is my staff is actually a great litmus test to knowing when I'm working too hard. They'll say like, Jen, like they actually did it this Friday. They've done it to me a couple times. They'll bench me. They'll be like, especially we've been working through some exciting things on the background that have required more than usual hours on my end. And so like they'll tell me like, you've been working too much. We cleared your schedule. You're off on Friday. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm off on Friday. But like they are my best litmus test, as well as like my one daughter's 8. So she'll tell me when I'm working too much. And like I am a workaholic. So I need those checks and balances for someone to be like, hey, you're good. Put the computer away. I will intentionally leave my computer upstairs. I'll take my watch off at 5. I'll do like little things to myself to signal, like shut it down. And then I will I think the thing that keeps me sane is working out. So I do another triathlon, which I know people think I'm crazy, but on Saturday, and like that keeps my mind set and crisp so I can be present for the company and as a mom. And I think like a lot of people view that as selfish, but I think like that's really the secret, as if you're going to try to balance both, is you have to take care of yourself. And I was always taught growing up, because I had a stay-at-home mom, that was selfish. And so, and she's still my best friend to date. It's just like I've had to do things kind of against what I was brought up. And one of them is like, it's not selfish to work out or take care of yourself, and you're not a shitty mom if you work. And so those things, like, again, I try to have certain things where my evenings after 5 is dedicated to them. We do sports, I cook, I make sure I'm taking them to all the activities and homework. And again, using them and my staff as my litmus test, they will be brutally honest, like, you've been working too much, we're going to give you off. So we do that in the company in general. If we notice someone's having a wave of like, holy crap, they have a lot of deadlines they're trying to meet, we will clear their calendar and give them off. So I think it's, setting the culture too. It was great to have that and have some really awesome people supporting me. And I will say, last thing is having that staff and having people that you trust to know, like, hey, I'm not here, but I know Mary, Lyle, Mike, like they got it, is like another definitely secret sauce of how to balance the both of them.
Yeah, that trust and confidence. I think that's so meaningful. So you both, Jaron and Jena, business owners with growing businesses, employees underneath of them, and then a ton of competing priorities. I guess for me, I've been doing executive pharmacy consulting for a while. And so I get to work with all the business owners on all the stresses they have. So Jena, give us this. So we talked about a little bit of the balance of being a parent and running a business. There's an internal balance of running the business, of saying, which one of the fires do I put out and which one is under Jena's hat at this stage of growth? And Jaron, actually, I'd love your input on this one too. But how do you decide? Like, this is Jena's toolbox, and then I need to delegate or learn quality delegation skills. Otherwise, I will never scale. Like, how did you institute that kind of skill set? Because I'm sure it was a struggle, like knowing your personality of, I can do it, I'm going to take it on, to delegating those components and knowing what is on Jena's plate or Jaron's plate.
Want to go first?
No, you go
Jaron
first.
sucks at this way more than I do. He's just learning it. So, Jared, because I yelled at Jared. I was like, what the hell are you doing? He was like, how many facilities do you have? And you had like 2 pharmacists. So, yeah, Jaron is just learning this skill.
Oh, yes, you are absolutely
from
right.
novice to experience. That.
Yeah.
That sounds.
I guess it's funny, like lately, this is the first month where I'm almost entirely off the front lines. And that's been an adjustment for me, like learning how to, it's easy to fill my time, but learning what to fill my time with and prioritize is something I'm like really starting to piece together and prioritize. Like, there's a lot of stuff I should have done last month that now I have to cram in and hurry and do this month, because if I don't do it, I mean, I've already paid for all my employees to do these tasks, but now how do I get paid for them? So now I'm scrambling to finalize a lot of details so that we can submit claims and get paid for those tasks so that, I can continue to pay everyone. So that's kind of that, for me, I have ADHD. I have a tendency to just, what time is it? Well, there's 2 times with ADHD. It's now and not right now. And so I have a tendency to wait until things are urgent and then like get on top of it. But, I've had discussions with Thea Blystone about this in the past. And she's like, Jaron, you need to schedule like every day. Here's the time you spend on email. Cause I hate email. Like I'm
do suck at email. I'm really just like digging into you right now.
It's like this never ending, like I get caught up on emails and then an hour later I have like 30 of them. I'm like, oh God, not again. So she's like, I've been talking to a lot of people, like, you need to prioritize, just learn how to every day. Okay, here's the time I spend doing this task, that task. So right now I'm still figuring that out, but that is a huge component that I'm learning is very valuable. Now that, I still have some work I do on the front lines, but learning, and I had the exact same experience as you just last week, Jena. Like a few of my employees were like, Jaron, there's a lot of work to finish this month. Here, let us take this, let us take that. And that makes such a big difference, knowing that you have that to rely on, that you're all working together, all on the same team. And so I guess to answer your question is, right now I'm still the dog chasing its tail, but I'm learning how to prioritize and manage my time better as an executive for the first time.
So from the grasshopper to the master, what are your next advanced thoughts then, Jena?
I wonder how many entrepreneurs have ADHD. There's got to be a strong correlation because I for sure have it. But so I am like, I tap into people's strengths and I know my weaknesses. So like, just like Jaren said, like I absolutely suck at organizing, and like I use AI for everything. So I'm building technology. I'm not a technologist, but I'm responsible for being the glue between the clinicians and the technologists. So I'll say, write me a user story for this and for the JIRA board. And it helps me write my emails because I don't even have the patience to sit through and write emails. And if I do, they're grammatically incorrect. And so I really lean into my resources, and I know where I'm strong and where I'm really, really weak. And so I hired an administrative assistant, and actually she just like surprised the hell out of me, and now she's helping with operations, and like is killing it. And so Hannah is she right now, like me and her have scheduled meetings where I sit down and we have a JIRA board, and she's like, all right, what are you doing today? And I'll just like, I'll tell her all the things, and then we sit there and we prioritize them and we put levels to them. And like I tap into her ability to stay organized. And she has helped me, like, again, I'll have it so that it will email me like, hey, this health plan needs this thing at this time. And tapping into other people's strengths to help me has been probably the best thing I could possibly do. And then leveraging technology. And then I'm not above, like we constantly have teams going at our organization. And I'll say like, hey, I'm overwhelmed. Maybe I have 3 people on the team that could possibly do it. I'll just ask the frank question, does anyone have the bandwidth? Like I'm not above asking for help, which was something I sucked at 2 years ago, but then it came at the compromise of my family time. And so I'm like, I'm not seeing my kids. Like I'm either going to do one of 2 things. I'm going to burn myself out, or I'm just going to fail, or I'm going to be not married and my kids are going to resent me because all I'm doing is working. And, there's definitely an added feeling when you're a female too. You like really struggle with that component of it. So again, just not having any shame is also a big component of like, hey, can somebody help me? Which I would never have done two years ago. And now I'm not above to asking everybody to, like my whole family makes fun of me. Like you just make sure everything's moving, but you don't actually do anything. I'm like, yeah, exactly. This is perfect. Perfect.
Somebody has to make the waves hit the beach.
Yeah. Huh? So finally slowly started to figure it out.
No, I think that's super helpful, and I think that with some time and prying some cold, dead hands of executives away from certain tasks, it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, usually it's what you hit on there, Jena, that humility component of just realizing one, you have to be humble that your time is valuable, which seems like an oxymoron, but is so true. Like you have to be able to say, I need someone else to do this because these other things need to take priority, for our company to be successful. The other ones that are so interesting is we will often, and I've seen it time and time again, get so excited about product and deployment and development and forget about revenue. And we end up prioritizing all the things that don't get our staff and ourselves paid. And so those elements of getting back to those basics of you got to make sure food's on tables is a big one that I've seen through lots of teams that I've advised over the years.
Yeah.
Jaren, you were just about to ask a question. Looking at your face, it was going to be something that was off the wall. So I'm excited about this.
Oh shoot! You can't shock me, Jaren.
I don't know about that. I know you're actually right. No, 100%. But did you have something off the wall?
Did I? No, he thought you did.
Oh, me? Oh, I thought you said you.
I thought
I could pull something out if you want me to.
You're going to ask a question to Jen, and I was going to be hiding in shame on this backside over here. But at least my red face, you can ask whatever you want, buddy.
No. So, so we're on a live show, and my daughter just brought me a drink. How nice of her!
Oh, okay. That's a good daughter right there.
Daughter.
I love that.
So I actually did think of something. It was, when you're constantly, you mentioned I forgot what it was. You mentioned help. So before I get to the off the wall stuff, you said learning how to ask for help is critical, and I've also learned that like 100%. So what do you think we should be asking for help from our professional organizations? What do we need from our professional organizations to help advance our profession to like the new frontier that we're talking about on this show?
I think we need pharmacists to understand like how to make a financially sound business model. Like I had to like flounder and then had to hire, slash he's my co-founder and amazing, but I had to hire someone that was like sound in working with health plans, understood health plan contracts, understand the legality of it. Obviously I'm always up to my eyeballs in legal fees. But like really nobody teaches us like the 101 of how do you bill? How do you get paid for your services? It's like they want us to keep doing stuff for free and advancing the career, but it's just not viable and nobody talks about it. And it's like in the beginning, I used to like feel weird saying like what we charge. Now I'm like, no, we're going to probably charge you around 130 to 150 per engaged member per month. And that's what I'm going to charge you. And that's what I'm worth. And that's what these clinicians that are 10 plus years in experience in pediatrics are worth. And like, we will show you and we'll make it worth your while. But nobody taught me, like nobody ever talked to us about that. And so I think that has to be a huge focus. And then also, which I know you're very good at, Jaron, but just like doing this legally and making sure that like we have bills passed and the right legislative support for our profession too is huge.
Yeah. In fact, I couldn't agree more. I think it's not just the professional organizations. I think it's also pharmacy schools. It's time to start teaching us how to charge and bill for our time.
Yeah.
Like that is such a critical component that we have just dropped the ball on. And it's time to pivot on it.
Talk to me about it.
Yeah, nobody.
No.
And that's what needs to change.
For you, Jena, is this one. What's the question that you wish that you would get asked? I mean, you've only been on a couple of podcasts. I know you and I have actually done only a couple of podcasts together. So what's the one question you're like, man, I wish someone would ask me this so I could answer this live?
I think just like being more open about like the struggles. Cause like we talk about, you see like, oh, she's successful. She's a CEO. She's a mom. She's, her made millions, seen thousands of patients. What they don't see is like me hysterically crying because I have to write up somebody or firing somebody, or me, God forbid, I don't even talk about this, like getting a lawsuit. It wasn't from a patient, but it was a prior employee. Like those types of things that like really are like a punch in the gut, or losing a contract, or being told, getting a bunch of no's on your sales. Like those are the things that I feel like we don't talk about. Like, and I try to be real on every social media, but it's at the same time, it's like, oh, well, don't expose that. Like, don't tell people that, because then but like, I just feel like the complete opposite, because the next person who loses the contracts gets sued, has to fire an employee, all the things, they're going to think, oh, this is like, woe me. But it's like, no, like that is the reality, that there's going to be really hard, gut-wrenching things that are gonna happen. And like the more we talk about them, the more we can equip like business owners to expect that. And not like, I was shocked because nobody ever told me that these things were going to happen. And so, with each punch, it gets, you learn how to duck. But, there's always going to be punches. Right when I have in like a great high contract sign, I'm like, shit, something's going to happen. I'm going to lose an employee. I'm going to have to fire somebody. You just like know, like something. And so kind of expecting those dips, but just talking about those dips more and making it not seem like, oh my God, I can't believe that you're exposing that. And you're supposed to be, you're going, almost past Series A and supposed to be so polished. But I think we should talk more openly about like the failures and the things that really suck when you're in this, that kind of get hidden on social media and just everywhere.
I love that.
Yeah.
Right, Jaron.
Yeah. I think that's the tendency we have with social media these days is we only see the roses and the good stuff. We don't see the struggle that happens in between those posts,
No. And I will tell you, they are, not
frequent.
always frequent, but frequent enough, and they hurt enough that it's it could deter somebody and also make people think like this was easy for anyone that's a few steps ahead of them, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm going to
It
jump
comes with a good
because
amount of gut punches.
speaking of, I have a patient.
Well, thank you so much, Jena, for your time. Thank you, audience, for being able to join us. And you guys can find us on all the spots that the New Frontiers podcast is available.